And Walker, again, just asking for directions. And this is what happens next. Homeowner, Jeffery Zeigler, opens the door and shortly after opens fire. Takes off running. Mr. Zeigler. All right, so there you saw Mr. Zeigler convicted, shooting the teenager who just knocked on the door looking for directions. Again, the teen, Brennan Walker, shot by the homeowner, Jeffery Zeigler. Brennan Walker was then just 14 years old. He thought, well, I'm in trouble here. I need to figure this out. The Michigan man, Jeffery Zeigler, shot at him with a shotgun. Thankfully, Walker was not injured, but the April 12th, 2018 incident still sticks with him psychologically. He has since graduated, the victim in this case, from high school, started college at Florida Memorial University in Miami to study biology. He escaped bodily harm, but psychologically, again, it's still with him. This month, Mr. Zeigler has been granted early parole, much to the outrage of Walker's mother, Lisa Wright. She received a letter from the parole board saying Zeigler will be released on or about April 11th. State Department of Corrections confirming the parole board interviewed Zeigler, greenlit his release. The MDOC says he's been largely misconduct-free while in prison, disciplined only once for being out of place. Kind of like the victim in this case was when he knocked on that door. Details of the incident: on the day of the shooting, the then 14-year-old Walker woke up late for school, missed the school bus. He then started walking to school, but somehow got lost in the subdivision as he attempted to trace the route the school bus would take on the way to his high school. Walker did not have his cell phone at the time because he was on punishment. Realizing he was lost, he knocked on the doors of nearby homes. The first homeowner gave him some directions, but he got lost again. And once he reached Jeffery Zeigler's home to ask for directions, things turned more serious. As he knocked, a woman inside started speaking to him through the door. "Why are you trying to break into my house?" Walker recalled the woman saying to him. The teen said he was trying to explain to the woman he was seeking directions, but the woman kept yelling. It was during this time Zeigler came downstairs with a gun. Wright suspected her son's race influenced Zeigler and his wife's reaction. One of the things that stands out that probably angers me the most is while I was watching the tape, you could hear the wife say, "Why did these people choose my house? Who are these people?" That set me off, Wright said. October 12th, 2018. Zeigler was convicted by a jury, found guilty of assault with attempt to do great bodily harm and possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. At his sentencing in November, Zeigler apologized after being sentenced to 2 consecutive 2 to 10-year prison terms for assault. Brennan and his mom have about 20 days to appeal the parole board's decision, something they are planning to do if the decision stands. Zeigler will have to comply with a lot of rules, including no contact with Brennan and his family. Francesca, when I first saw the footage, because this is a story, again, it's been several years now. We figured Mr. Zeigler was locked up tight, but when I first saw the footage, what jumped out at me was just the lack of humanity, the cruelty. You have a 14-year-old who's just knocking on the door, and there's a Karen on the other side of it who begins yelling and almost like a setup. It's like it was planned. Can we shoot a black boy today? What's your reaction?
I mean, it's harrowing and upsetting, and the way that Zeigler points his firearm, his shotgun at this 14-year-old kid, just like on some Looney Tunes, Elmer Fudd hunting rabbits. Seriously though, that's how ridiculous he looks. And that's clearly how he's treating this kid. And obviously, yes, you pointed out, everyone's pointing out the fact that he is a young black man, not even a man, a child, has everything to do with this story. Right, I know the mother has said that Zeigler never seemed actually to admit wrongdoing, even though there was an apology. I'm gonna be honest with you though, this was a 10-year sentence, so that's 20, I believe, 20 years if I'm not mistaken. And he did serve about 5 of those years. This is where my trigger comes in when it comes to really the necessity for some kind of harm reduction program, some kind of restorative justice, some kind of way that we can not just use the carceral system to obviously punish someone when they are in the wrong, but also retrain them and help them. Honestly, like, I know it sounds pie in the sky, but get over these biases, this racism, and to say nothing of taking away their firearms, which I'm assuming this man Zeigler does not have access to in the future. So look, if it were in Florida, it would have gone down different, right? We saw with George Zimmerman what happens with stand your ground laws. I'm glad he at least served some time. I can only imagine what the mother is going through, but I also believe there should be a second chance for this man to learn from this incredibly awful mistake.
Yeah, and the word mistake, he meant it, but I understand what you're saying.
Totally.
And
right.
There's several things that jump out at me. You're probably right. The sentence was 2 to 10 on each count or something. So after about 4 years minimum, so he probably served what would be standard, let's say, with only that one infraction behind bars. But at the same time, here is a man filled with hate. We can pretend that, it was a little bit misunderstanding, breaking in, get out of here. And what about the wife? Okay, it's very trashy, sick, prejudiced behavior. And I do think that being away from his family, because this could have gone another way, and I think they meant for it to go another way, where we'd have one less biology student in the world today. But I think that I would like to see him have a bit more sentence on the outside, if you will. I think he should have to be immersed in something that surrounds him by other young biology students, if they can stomach him, quite frankly, because I think you're right. Not enough remorse. And I'd like to talk and maybe get your take on how the system treated this mother. The victims, oh yeah, them.
Yeah.
What about that? They get a letter, oh, by the way, here's our decision. Shouldn't they have been notified? And we don't have that reporting so that they could weigh in. Like you said, an apology. Sorry, I shot at your son. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think that would be a justice system that I would be for, right? A system where you consult the victims, where you speak with them, where they have to, if they choose to, they could potentially meet with Zeigler again, and or be part of the decision making for what is constituted as justice and what constitutes allowing someone like that back onto, into the world, right? We would say that with any kind of predator. We would say that with a sexual offender. We would say that with a rapist. Sadly, we don't do it nearly enough, right? When it's attempted, like this was attempted murder, we don't do enough to make sure that they're not necessarily gonna recommit. But again, I would definitely like to listen and hear from the victims. I think you're right about them being part of that decision.
Yeah, that part, and the fact that this young man who was on punishment like a lot of 14-year-olds,
right.
But at the end of the day, he needs some support here. As he, again, not physically harmed, but mentally still fighting with this PTSD, he deserves some deference here. So it's a story we'll keep following, and we'll report on the family's appeal. They plan to appeal this parole decision that's in favor of Mr. Zeigler.